What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another video. So today we're going to give an update on one of the most undervalued penny stocks I believe that is out there, in the form of HighTide, ticker symbol HITIF. So the way we'll structure this video is in three different forms. Firstly, we'll have a look at my current position and its current price to see how it's performing. We'll then have a look at some of my old catalysts that I mentioned in prior videos and see how they're improving or if they're after degrading. And third of all, we'll give three brand new pieces of catalysts that will act as big differences in their share price going forward. And with all that being said, let's dive right on into today's video. Ironically enough, HighTide is only one of three or so holdings out of my 33 overall that are in the red at the moment. So it's quite funny that I believe this has a lot of potential, even though it's one of my worst performing stocks. But hear me out, and throughout this video, I give backed up evidence of why I believe the stock is very undervalued. So we can see here on the left, I currently have 531 shares. We're down nearly 15%. My current price is currently sitting at 50 cent or 50.44 cent. And my average price here is about 58 cents a share on the dotted line. So for those of you that are new to the stock, basically in synopsis, HighTide is a Canadian cannabis penny stock that currently has a lot of potential going forward, in my opinion, in the form of strong fundamentals and catalysts, even though their share price kind of disagrees with this at the moment. But for example, if you type in HighTide now or HITIF, I believe you'll find it very difficult to find any negative news on this stock. My main theory here is that I believe some very large institutional investors are hyping the stock and pumping it and dumping it, effectively getting it down as low as possible and buying back in. So because the fundamentals and catalysts do not kind of line up with their current price. For example, next we'll have a look at some of the catalysts and fundamentals that I've noted in some of my prior videos to see how they're performing and why at current prices I believe HighTide is very undervalued. So I've mentioned all of these points in prior videos, so I won't go into too much detail. We'll just kind of give a very brief synopsis and then get on to the three brand new points, which again are new catalysts and we'll be adding to this list later on in the video. So the first kind of two here are the product offerings and diversification / celebrity endorsements. Now, continually, HighTide is really proving itself to be a diversified stock and company overall, which definitely is a big factor in penny stocks to ensure they keep afloat. The product offerings and diversification, which we'll discuss later on more, is very impressive in my opinion. If you go onto their website, you can see the vast array of different products and services they offer, which really will help down the line as a long-term company and stock. Then there's celebrity endorsements. They have the likes of Snoop Dogg and Cheech and Chong, two very big celebrity endorsements for this sector. Certainly people or names that you want kind of with your brand, so that's huge importance as well. So the next 2 points, firstly, they have a great CEO in the form of Raj. Now he's very transparent and you can see that throughout their Twitter page, which is very important I believe as a penny stock, as a lot of penny stocks are quite shady. So this will definitely benefit them in the long term if they continue this kind of full disclosure of what they're doing, which is very important in my opinion. And then they're ever expanding. Now we've seen that throughout my prior videos on this stock, where they've continually built their bricks and mortar and expanded across Canada. And they've also started to fix some of their online e-commerce problems by acquiring other well-known e-commerce sites. Now again, I just want to fly through these points as we have more updated news to get to as well. So again, it goes without saying they are the leading Canadian cannabis stock, which certainly will be in their favour in terms of getting new business, etc. And they're huge potential at current prices. Now when I wrote this down, this was a few weeks back and they were actually at a higher price then. So this point even hits home even more now that they're trading at about the 50 cent mark. The company is still in the process of filing for the NASDAQ. Now I have a big update on that later on as well, so we'll just skip past that point. The mergers and acquisitions, again, we just discussed, are doing very well in my opinion. You can't fault them at all for the business that they're undertaking at the moment. Certainly is why I'm backing the company, even though it's down 15% at the moment. We also could have seen earlier in prior videos, they had great Q1 earnings and even Q4 of 2020, which bodes well for the long term. Again, past performance doesn't really indicate future success either, but certainly they have a great stronghold going. And the final 3 old points that we discussed prior was the reduced interest rates on some of their loans, which is really important. And again, you can't really fault anything that HighTide have done in my own personal opinion. Again, if you can find anything online, I'd love to know in the comment section below. But everything they're doing seems to be right, which is certainly great, especially for this price of a penny stock. Also, the more stores we just discussed, they're continually expanding. And final point here was an important point that I had as the one and only negative, or maybe one of 2 negatives I could find in the stock, was that they needed to increase their overall global presence, especially in the US. and they've certainly started to do that by increasing their e-commerce platforms and acquiring some companies within the US. Again, we'll discuss that in a few seconds as well. But that's imperative for the stock to grow, is to get out of Canada as well and expand across the globe. Now, as mentioned as well, one huge catalyst going forward would be if HighTide could get on the NASDAQ, which obviously would give them great exposure and would really be of huge benefit to the stock going forward. And we can see here the heading that HighTide have now made a step closer to getting on the NASDAQ by having a share consolidation. We'll have a very brief look through what that means for the company now. Now, as you can imagine, to get onto the NASDAQ, you probably have to jump through a lot of different hoops and fulfill a lot of requirements. And this share consolidation would certainly be one of those. So again, it's great to see that the HighTide are being very proactive here and really trying to do their best to get on the NASDAQ. Now we'll have a brief look through what this will actually mean for the company going forward. So we can see here a direct quote from the CEO Raj is that if they can get onto the NASDAQ, this will make their stock a lot more accessible to institutional and retail investors, which will really increase their appeal for mergers and acquisitions as well going forward. And again, because they are the leading Canadian cannabis stock, they already have that in their favour, so especially by getting onto the NASDAQ, they will really be able to reap the rewards from smaller companies within the sector through mergers and acquisitions. Now I suppose you're wondering what this consolidation actually will mean for your own holdings. Now we can see here, as planned, the existing 690 million shares will be cut down to 46 million. In addition, fractional shares will no longer be issued by the company as well. So again, that's big news, especially if you're like me on Trading 212 that uses fractional shares as well. But again, you could just round it up again because the prices are so small. Now, this 15-to-1 share consolidation is set to kick off. That we can see on screen here is May 14th or thereabouts. So this consolidation will expect NASDAQ's listing. So this will help get on the NASDAQ if they can fulfill the share consolidation. So it's going to be a very interesting few weeks and months ahead to see if the share consolidation certainly goes ahead and how it will actually impact the share price going forward. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how this consolidation will work out for the company, and if they can actually get on the NASDAQ, I'm really looking forward to seeing where the share price will go then. That's why I'm not one bit concerned that my current holding is down 15%. If anything, because I'm having a cool off period this week in terms of buying new stocks or dollar cost averaging into some of my positions that are in the red. Next week I'm going to certainly start pumping more money in. I have about €1,000 set aside to start pumping money in from next week onwards again. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what average price I can get down to, and over the long term, how much of a gain we can make. Now, as mentioned earlier as well, one of their kind of very small blips that I found over the last few months was that they needed a bigger overall global presence, and have certainly continued to improve on this platform, especially on the e-commerce side as well, by acquiring, we can see here, the Fab CBD, which they've acquired, which is in the US, which will definitely help broaden the horizon, and we'll have a very brief look through that now. So the two main benefits from this acquisition of Fab Nutrition will be firstly to tap into the US market, and secondly to always improve their e-commerce online markets. Certainly what Fab Nutrition is all about, so they've made a great business here in my own opinion. Now overall, again, even though we look through some catalysts and fundamentals for the stock, it really does feel like it's a pressure cooker as such, and it's just kind of waiting to pop. Now obviously I'm not trying to pump this stock, even though it might seem I am. I'm not affiliated with this company any way, shape or form as such. So again, going forward, I'm not a financial advisor, but I do really believe in terms of cannabis penny stocks in particular, that HighTide really is undervalued. Again, you need to make your own kind of points here, especially if you are investing any of your own hard-earned capital. But I'd be very interested to know as well in the comment section below if you do feel that HighTide has a lot of potential or if it's all just hype. So I'm really looking forward to seeing where the stock is going to go. And it's not just me who believes this stock is undervalued. A lot of online articles, such as the one on screen here, indicates that at 50 cents a share, HighTide really is undervalued, considering how many catalysts and fundamentals the company has going forward and how stable it is for an actual penny stock. So again, my plan long term for the stock is to continue to buy in at the dip. In terms of prices, in the short term, I would like to get as close to the 50 cent mark as possible. We currently have an average price of about 58 cents. So if the stock continues to go down, I'll certainly be able to get to that 50 cent mark in no time. But I'll certainly be tipping away, adding in shares every so often. Again, nothing spectacular here. I'll just be adding in 10, 20, 50 euros at a time. So over the long term, I'm going to have a very good overall cheap average cost. So in the long term, hopefully, I'll reap the rewards with a big profit when this company actually pops. So that's pretty much it for today's video. I just want to give an update on the stock, as a lot of people have been asking me, well, when I say a lot, I mean about 3 or 4 people, but a lot of people have been asking me about this stock and if my plan of selling the stock because it's doing so poorly at the moment. In fact, that's complete opposite what I'm doing. If anything, I'll be buying more. Again, because of the points mentioned in today's video, I really do feel that this stock is undervalued, and I'd be very interested to know in the comment section below, firstly, if you hold the stock and how many shares, and second of all, if you believe the stock is undervalued. Thanks very much, enjoy the rest of your Thursday, and we'll see y'all in tomorrow's video.